Grab this tablet and we'll get started. Hey, good morning, everyone. Hope you can hear me okay. Okay, so we're going to keep going on the Peru. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to be doing. First off, get my reference situated. Hey, good morning, who? Cooking fish loaf. Hey, welcome. Okay, so let's see. Going to save out a version so that way we have a little bit of record of some progress. How you guys doing? How was your week? I hope it was a good week. Hope everything you did went smoothly. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to scare you, Hoot. So I'm thinking, let me see if I want to tackle this right now. I might want to try to resolve whatever we need to resolve with the closure of the mouth. But I gotta set it up in a particular way. So that way I can open and close things easily. And the teeth are a big part of that. Because they have to rotate with the jaw. Okay. Let's see how we do this. Isolate this jaw. And then grab part of the neck. We gotta find a rotation point that's accurate to the position. Which would probably be right there. I'm looking at the skull, right here. And then I have to select the teeth, deselect the limbs, and then we'll try it out and see how it goes. So in all likelihood, it's not gonna close like super nicely right away. So we're gonna have to fiddle with it, which is fine. This is how this is how a majority of my dino sculpts go. even when you're even if you're sculpting against a reference like a skeletal, one thing I've found happens a lot is when you swing the jaw up to meet the to close everything, the jaw is usually not aligned properly. So in this case, I think the jaw is the right length. It's just that the width is not right. So like you see this gap there. And then so I have to fix that gap, and then the waviness of the jaw. So I'm noticing on the reference, there is a subtle wave. I'm talking about this motion here. There's a subtle one, but it's much straighter than I have here. So I'll need to straighten that out and then move the teeth properly. So we'll go ahead and do that, and that'll be the first, probably a good chunk of this stream. So he's gonna look a little bit weird because this is gonna puff out a lot. I don't want to distort that, so I'm gonna leave that alone for the most part. So now that we have the rotation, so I'm gonna label this rotation. Here, I'm gonna name this. Those are the adjustments. It's in recording mode, and I gotta isolate the jaw again because I don't want to make any modifications to the rest of the model. Then we'll just adjust stuff. Unfortunately, I don't have a... Okay, I have like a slight view of the top of the jaw. I mean the bottom jaw. A slight... I mean like a portion of the lower jaw is here in my references from the top view. So that helps. He is going to have an overbite. That's just the way that he, it's just the way that his anatomy is. But this gap here shouldn't be as big. If you look at other crocs, other ancient crocs, they're going to have the similar overbite. Sarcosuchus has one. Deinosuchus has one. Sarcosuchus looks actually, I think Sarco looks really weird when he closes his mouth, because he's got these like kind of buck teeth. So this is kind of what I want. This is more like flatter, this profile. Let's see. Ooh, good week. Super stormy here, but you survived. Good. How was your week? My week was okay. Yeah. What happened this week? Let's see if there's anything eventful. Just work and oh, I got some new Digimon cards. I bought a few. There's some new sets that were out, and I bought a couple boxes. And I was opening some packs for a couple days, which was fun. What What else? Monster Hunter update. Playing a bit of that, which was pretty cool. Been enjoying that game still. Yeah, not too bad a week. Ooh, that throat patch, yeah. It's getting pretty exaggerated. It's kind of one of the weird things that happens with the ZBrush. I mean, I could kind of adjust for it and then like just for the aesthetics of it so it doesn't look so weird, but we'll see. If it bothers me a lot, then I'll fix it. I want to see this by itself. Then I want to adjust the teeth. It's kind of hard to do. Okay. Let me get a ref of a croc really quick. Or not a croc, a caiman. So the mouth isn't gonna like, so crocs I think generally have like more interlocking teeth, like their mouth shuts really kind of tightly, and then the teeth like mesh together like this kind of. What I'm noticing with caimans and alligators is that their teeth don't do this quite so much. They're like more like resting in between each other like that. They don't like actually lock in. So that's what I'm going to try to do here. So that's what I'm going to try to do here with this the interlocking, quote unquote, of the teeth. So I'm going to shift things around just a bit. Give me 1 second. Tifa. Come on. Go. Okay. Model this here. I want to get this mask my polygroups. Let me make sure I have good polygroups on this. I think so. So what I'm going to do is just kind of shift things just a little bit over, so that way they're slightly like in between each other. They don't have to be perfectly in between. If it's too perfect, then it starts to look weird. So there is going to be a little bit of like overlapping. But it's not going to be super what's the word? I gotta control it, is what I mean. I want to raise these up because I raised the gum line a lot, so I don't want to cover up the teeth too much. See on. something like that, and then second, turn double so I can see the backside. I gotta adjust how they're sitting on this. Food. Oh yeah, I saw the Tyrannosaurus. Looks amazing so far. Thank you. Yeah. Currently working on the scales for the Urano. Those are almost done. I just got to do some of the scales on the feet and like detail the claws and stuff. And that should be ready to get texturing. So we're making, I feel like I'm making pretty good progress on that guy. Pretty happy with the way the scales look so far. Kivarstra, hello, how's it going? Welcome back. You see some color on the Peru. Maybe I didn't do any like I didn't do any painting or anything yet. So I'm not sure what the color would be. It's just the matte cap right now. So I want to. That's the old head. I don't need that. This. I want to make sure that I am not puncturing the surface of the mouth. I like the inner surface of the mouth with these teeth, which I currently am. You see that? So I need to move that out. To move that out of the way. It's not going to be... So, the thing about this is that it's a video game character, right? There is going to be some clipping. It's actually... if this were like if I was making this into an action figure or something, this would absolutely not fly. There can be no clipping in the mouth. Because of... plastic parts can't insert into plastic unless you accommodate them with like a little space for them to insert into. So there might be some clipping in this. I'm going to try to keep it as realistic as possible, so that way it feels like a real animal. So we'll try to get rid of all this clipping here. That way he can, if he were really alive, he would theoretically be able to close his mouth properly and not bite himself. There are actually I think there are some crocs and other species of crocodilian that their lower teeth kind of grow up. I'm not sure if they grow up through their skull and pop out a little bit, or if there's actually like part of if that's like an anatomical feature that they actually have to allow their teeth to grow longer. But I've seen some photos of crocs with their lower teeth popping up through their upper jaw, Try and get rid of a lot of this if I can. Then we might need to scoot this a little bit in here. It's important to note, this might be something more for the animators than for you guys, but you don't want to close the mouth super tightly. There would actually be like a little bit of space there. They wouldn't clamp down like extremely tight. So I think that would be something that needs to be taken into account. And the thing too is that I might need to make like a marker mesh or something. But when the animators come in to animate this stuff, they need to be rotating the mesh from the same point that I'm rotating it, or else it won't close properly. It'll be too short or too long. So I need to make sure that I mark that somehow, possibly. Just take a look back at my roughs again for the jaw. Kivarstra must have been something else. Maybe you saw the concept art on the thumbnail or something. That could be it. Squirrel Games. I think that's how you say your name. You think Purussaurus was some kind of cat lizard? A Purussaurus, yeah. I see what you mean. It's actually kind of that kind of makes me think of Godzilla a little bit. In the newest movie, what is it? I guess I think technically as a King Kong movie, right? I don't know. The newest movie, the newest Godzilla movie, they actually give him kind of like a cat-like personality. Like he curls up in his like little bed, which is actually the Colosseum in Rome. They kind of give him a little bit of a cat persona, which is, it's interesting. It's a way to do it, I suppose. Godzilla has had several different kinds of personalities throughout the years. Some of them have been kind of goofy. Something like that. I think that's starting to look okay. Starting being the key word. I would really love to see this stuff in person, because I think it would help me a lot to kind of figure out how this closed. So the best that I have is this, right? This is, as you can see, this is pretty straight, kind of. There's a curve here, It's not super drastic, but there is a curve. But what I'm also looking at is the outer line of the jaw. So it's pretty straight. It doesn't like go like this or anything. But if you look at, I have some references. I have one reference of the lower jaw from the top. Where is it? Yes, I think this is the lower jaw. And you see this? That's kind of what's interesting about it. Although, I should check that figure and make sure it's coming from the right place. Hey. Sorry, guys. I have to settle a dispute really quick. Let's see if that holds. So I think what I'm going to do, Tifa. Can I do a dog reveal? Sure. Come here. She's been on stream a couple times. This is a troublemaker. I don't know what she's doing this morning, but she's trying to mess with her brother, and he's trying to sleep. She's not even a year old. Maybe like 8 months or something like that. So she's got a lot of energy, and her brother's an old man. He's trying to sleep. She's not letting him. She's not happy that I'm holding her because she wants to mess around on the floor. Huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she went right back to it. Hold on, guys. I might have to get her out of here. I might have to let my wife handle her for a little bit. Give me 1 second. Okay. She's a little too hyper this morning. Yeah, it's always playtime for her. We're lucky she has, so we have 3 dogs. The 2 others are both older than her, but she has a little sister that they get along pretty well, and they always like chase each other and wrestle and stuff. But the little one can get a little bit rough because she hasn't learned to like control her bites just yet, so she can bite a little too hard. So we gotta watch her sometimes. One thing I noticed just now is that I'm missing. So there's if you look here, see this, how far this protrudes back. So there would be muscle like attaching here. And then this would be where the neck would go. So I think I'm missing this part. So I need to, I'm not sure why I got lost in the sculpt, but I need to reintroduce that. I mean, technically, I think it would probably be kind of buried in here because this is the jaw muscles right here. So it might not even show up very well. That's a feature that all crocodilians would generally have. That little like handlebar kind of element that kind of sticks past the jaw back there. And when I look at living crocs, I don't really see it pronounced too much. But I want to make sure that I'm not making a mistake there. We'll figure it out for sure. Okay, let me focus on the jaw though. I want to make sure I have the right outline to this. Yeah, over enthusiastic play bite. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm wondering if anyone's done any bite force analysis on Purussaurus. I wonder if there's maybe a paper. I have a friend that actually does bite force studies. He's done he has at least one paper that I know of on Tyrannosaur bite forces. I actually helped him with that paper. I gave him some skulls, some Tyrannosaur skulls to use in his testing. So I'm actually credited in that paper as a co-author, I think. But yeah, I'm wondering, it might be interesting if he would be willing if I gave him like one of these skulls, and then maybe he would do like a bite force test. I don't know. He's probably super busy, but it'd be kind of fun to see what the results would be. We'd have to make sure that's all okay to do though. force is estimated at 7 tons force, apparently. Okay. There could be an estimate somewhere. Remember those old TV shows where people tested the bite force and strength of animals in mock battle? Yeah, I remember a lot of those shows. What was it called? Was it the Dinosaur Fight Club thing? Or Jurassic Fight Club or something like that? There were probably a couple different shows like that. Yeah, I remember them making like, they would make like, I remember them doing one of a saber tooth. They made like a metal saber tooth skull. And they put it on just this kind of like elaborate like device to mimic the neck of the saber tooth, and then they like let it rip into, was it like ballistic gel or something like that? Or maybe they actually got like a pig or something and let it rip into it. Can't remember exactly. Those shows used to be pretty fun. Let me hide this. It'd be fun to rewatch those. I wonder if they can, if they're like on a DVD or something. So make sure that I'm aligning this right. This is where the jaw would be. Rotate it to match this. So I think I need to actually thicken the jaw. Just a bit. I'm going to turn off mask by polygroups. Birds, those shows were so exciting to watch when I was younger. I remember one that was polar bear versus walrus, and it was so mad the walrus won. I don't remember that one, but yeah, they had some crazy matchups. And I mean, I guess if you think about it, that kind of lines up, because generally like the herbivores and like those types of animals they're technically usually the more dangerous ones. Like when people always talk about how most dangerous animal in Africa is the hippo, right? And then like in North America, moose are pretty nasty. I think it's just because they tend to be much They tend to be much bigger than their predators. And then they're also very like reactive, right? They're like always on the lookout for any danger. So the minute anything's like suspicious or whatever might happen, they're just on guard, like constant. So they're much more, they have a higher tendency to lash out to try to protect themselves than a predator, which would be much more careful and calculated, because they have a lot to lose, right? If they make a mistake. So it kind of makes sense. A walrus would be pretty nasty. Okay. So I actually like the way his jaw looks now that it's, you know, readjusted and it's a lot thicker. Let's see how it looks when I subdivide it all back. So that looks looks good. The thing about it though, see what happened to the texture? It's kind of annoying actually. This got stretched out. So I'm gonna have to address that. But otherwise, I think that's looking pretty cool. And of course, like, so when this is animated, this like throat area would not actually be like extended like that. It would be much more natural looking, but because this is a 3D sculpture and not like an animatable mesh, it's gonna look strange. If I take off the rotation, then that's what it looks like. Just double checking everything, because I want to make sure that the adjustments stick. They're not being distorted once I turn off the layer. Sometimes that happens. Layers in ZBrush can be like, I don't know. I don't trust them sometimes. You can do some really cool stuff with them, but they can also give you like wonky results when you start turning things on and off and mixing and matching layers. So the thing I'm noticing, and I don't know, you guys can double check me here, but this feels okay when I turn this off, but this feels like it's getting smaller, that area. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a trick of the eye. What I could do just to mitigate that though is I can just manually rotate it back into position where it was, so that way, let me see. Where are we? That. This. I could try. I might not be able to though. I'm thinking about it just now because there's a bunch of geometry tucked up under that crease of the jaw up there that is going to get stretched back out, and that's not going to be good. So maybe not. Let's not do that. Let's delete this layer. We'll just commit to this rotation and then double check. We'll double check that the this distance here isn't being adjusted too bad. I gotta rotate the teeth. I should have put a layer on the teeth as well, but I didn't think about it. Here we go. Move this from here. That is a problem. Let's do this. Rotate it back here. There we go. And then just to double check things again, because you can't be too careful. We'll put the jaw back down here. Rotate this down so it's back in its place. And then take a look. Make sure we're in. Make a new layer just in case. And then adjust. Okay, so it didn't distort too much, but I do want to adjust this even more. Pro games, beware the liar layer. Yeah. It's such a cool feature. It's just sometimes they act really weird. And it can cause a lot of just causes a lot of kinks to happen in the workflow, and sometimes it's more awkward to deal with than it's worth. But for this part, this like type of stuff, I think it's okay. I can bake this all now. I just don't like to keep them there because like once I'm happy with the adjustments, I tend to bake them down really quickly because yeah, they just later on down the line they can cause issues with like texture exports. They can cause issues with like it's the like poly painting. They just behave really weirdly. Oh, Kivarsha without teeth, it looks pretty silly. Let's see. Let's turn those off again. Yeah. He looks pretty happy. Looks like he could be on Barney or something. Okay. One thing that I noticed while I was messing around with the teeth is that these teeth are much too narrow. They're like widthwise. They need to be wider. Like this. Possibly even wider this way too. But let me put the dynamic there. The teeth are very like, I was describing them like when we first started working on Purussaurus. They're like bullet shaped. Like if you imagine the tip of a bullet, that kind of like, it's pointed, but it's kind of like round pointed. If that makes sense. That's the kind of feeling I want, because they're made for crushing. They're not like piercing necessarily. This guy is probably like I wonder what the diet would have been. I didn't look into that too much, but maybe he was eating, maybe they were like more specialized for maybe bone crushing, or maybe he was eating like more like shelled creatures, like maybe like turtles or something like that. Because it seems like they're very robust teeth. Like these teeth would be able to do a lot of like, yeah, like kind of blunt damage, I guess, if you were to gamify it. That's the feeling I get from these. And I also want to give it a slight curve, so they're not I hope that, yeah, great. Okay, so there is a problem. We got a problem. Where do I, not dynamic. Oh, it's because dynamic symmetry was on. Here, we'll fix this really quick. Delete this side. We'll delete hidden. Mirror and weld. And then we'll reconstruct the subdivs. Unable to reconstruct. Oh no. Well, then let's see if we can do this. No. Sorry guys, you're gonna see me struggle here for a second. Then what can we do? I can go back to before I started adjusting all that mess. This is part of the pain of being a ZBrush sculptor. It's just like this kind of stuff that happens. It's like you start making adjustments, forget that you have a certain little thing ticked on or something, and then like you realize that you've adjusted the wrong part, or like things got out of whack, and then you got to figure out how to fix it. Pretty fun. Here we go. I think we'll be fine now. That's honestly one thing when I was like just starting to stream. I mean, I haven't been streaming for that long, right? We've only had like I think we're on stream 25, 24 right now. So not a ton of streams, but I mean, it feels like a pretty decent amount by now. I feel more comfortable streaming for sure. But that's one of the things that that I was like worried about when I first started to think about streaming, like working on this stuff, is like ZBrush can be so temperamental. And I was like, oh man, if something goes wrong during the stream and I have to like troubleshoot, it's gonna look so, like, I was afraid. I was like, people are gonna think I don't know what the heck I'm doing. But it just happens. Like, see it happen again. What is going on with this? I think it's dynamic. Something about the dynamic subdiv. Maybe. No, that works. It's just stuff that happens when you're sculpting. I kind of had to accept that. There we go again. I think I'm maybe I just didn't have symmetry on for part of it. Double check. Okay, that's fine. Now we can move on to the next tooth. Make that wider. Why is that on that side now? Okay. That seems like it's working now. And then I can add that curve in that I wanted to add earlier. I want it to have just slightly, I want to break up that perfect vertical because it just feels too inorganic. It feels too, just feels too artificial, 3D, you know. So I gotta break that up. And then fix this a bit. I just want to say, incredibly impressive that you can take fragmentary skeletal records and make a whole flesh blood creature from it. Hats off to you, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's I've learned a lot about paleo reconstruction over the years. At first it was really scary because like it was really hard to find the reference material. I wasn't like part of the like paleo art community. Like I didn't know very many people. Now I know people that I can actually ask, you know, specific questions about certain things, and they're kind enough to help me out and stuff. But before I was pretty I was kind of on my own. And then but it's just about like, you know, my background is, yeah, I love creatures. I love comparative anatomy. I had I learned a lot of like creature anatomy just by observing, going to zoos, sketching real animals, looking at a lot of biology books. I went through a comparative anatomy course at the Museum of Natural History in Denver, which was really cool. They let us like go back into their collection and like study a lot of stuff. I focus mainly on reptiles, of course, but there was a lot of other comparative anatomy between mammals and even like fish and stuff. We we looked at. So that's all been information that's come in really handy. Especially, vertebrate anatomy is, I would say, I wouldn't say it's like easy. That's not the right word, but it's like, at least especially if it's like a tetrapod. A crocodile has basically the same muscles that you and I have. It's just that they're oriented in a different way, or like presented in a different way on their skeleton. But a crocodile has a humerus. So what attaches to the humerus? Well, you got the brachioradialis, and then you have the triceps, and then you have all these other muscles that go on there. So they have those too. It's just different, And fortunately with crocs, crocs are pretty easy because we actually have, their body plans didn't really change too much. So we actually have good kind of direct reference for them. So they're not too bad. So I like the feeling of these teeth much better. So you can see how they feel much stronger. Yeah, I think that's working out really well. Squirrel Games. It's first time catching the stream. Pretty impressive. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying. And yeah, thanks for coming in and checking the stream out today. You love creatures as well, but not in that detailed of a way. No worries. 10 Castion. Will caves provide warmth during winter? If you have any information on that. I'm not sure what the environmental effects of stuff like that would be in the game. That would be maybe for maybe that's a good question to ask in the Discord, or maybe ask one of the other devs. It's more of a game design thing than what I'm actually trying to figure out here with the sculpt. It seems like that would be a good idea though, right? I'd imagine that well, at least in real life, I guess, temperature fluctuations in a cave might be less severe than outside. At least that's how, seems like that's how it would work, but who knows. Because temperature underground is much more constant than above ground. I believe it's at a certain depth in the ground, it's what's the temperature? I forgot. It's around 70 degrees, I think. And it doesn't change very much. I suppose maybe if you're in polar latitudes, it would get much colder because at lower depths, because there's permafrost and stuff. But I don't know if we're accounting for that in the game. want some variation here. I'm looking at my skull diagram and trying to notice like little like imperfections, I suppose you would call them, to try and give this just a little bit of character so they don't look like they're just copy pasted teeth, which they kind of are, but I want to give some variety. This needs to be wider, and that would be the last tooth on the bottom that we need to adjust. Okay. Okay. Just comparing my adjustments to my reference really quick. Okay, I think that's at a good spot. We may adjust it more later. But I think the major thing I wanted to take care of right now is the way it looks when it's closed. So I think we handled that. I'm gonna do a bit of detailing on the teeth, I think, just to get those up to snuff. Let me find a good reference for those. We'll just make this stream mostly about the mouth and teeth, I suppose. So we want to subdivide these up pretty high. About there's good. And then start adding in some details. These are going to be, so I want the teeth to be overall smooth, but I'm just going to add a little bit of surface detail. Maybe like a tiny bit of damage. I know where crocs and hippos territories overlap. Hippos are usually the dominant species. I wonder how that go with Peru and hippos. Yeah, I'm not sure. Purussaurus. Let me see. Purussaurus is from What era is he from? Because this guy's after dinosaurs, right? He's a Miocene. So the Miocene is like in I guess you would consider that like part of the age of mammals, right? Like the bigger mammals maybe. I don't know what would have been living. Maybe there's something that was like a hippo, something that filled like a hippo niche in that environment. Maybe like some big mammal that was comparable. I'm not sure. Miocene animals are not my I don't know a ton about them. I usually stick to the Mesozoic stuff. So the details here on the lower jaw I'm going to have to adjust because I moved the, not like that, because I moved the teeth. So I'm going to have to fix that part, which is fine. Not too big a deal. I'm going to treat this as kind of like an assembly line where I'm going to just do like a pass of detail and then do a next pass. So I'm going to do these like vertical lines on everything and then come back and do the additional stuff. I think that's probably the better approach. Maybe a little bit faster. I'm bad at knowing everything's time period. I know logically there's different periods, but it's all at Age of Dino to me. Yeah. Yeah, I get that way. If it's before dinosaurs or after dinosaurs, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I have to like research them specifically to figure out where they fit on timescales. I think this might be the first animal that I've worked on that's after the Mesozoic era. I don't think I've ever worked on something. Maybe. No, that's not true. I was working on concepts for I think it was a TV show or something. This was a long time ago. But it was, give me 1 second. It was it had a lot of megafauna in it. But one of the things that I was working on was there was like megalodon, and I think it was a gomphotheer, and then there was saber-tooth tigers, and there's some weird like hippo relatives, I guess they were. They're called Mixotoxodon. They're really weird. I actually don't know if they're hippo relatives. I might be making that up. But they looked very hippo-ish. But yeah, I worked on stuff like that. So that kind of predates the Peru, I suppose. Am I going crazy, or did I thought I adjusted these already. I wonder what happened. Yeah, I thought I adjusted these. Why did they change back to the weird narrow version? Maybe because I subdivided. That might have been it. Oh no. Okay. Yeah, Mixotoxodon. They are definitely, they're definitely something. I like their name. It's fun to say. A lot of those megafauna kind of mammals, like ice age mammals and stuff like that, have some fun names. I hate when that happens. So ZBrush, the camera in the viewport, it rotates around the points that you're sculpting on. So if I touch here, I'm rotating around that point. If I touch over here, then I'm rotating around there. Sometimes when I'm working, I'm like moving stuff around and I'll accidentally like touch this, like for example, like an area that I'm not working on, and then I'm all of a sudden rotating around that, and then this guy gets in the way. So It's kind of annoying. That's why you see me every now and then like kind of dragging the model into the frame again, because I'm accidentally clicking on parts that I'm not supposed to be working on. Andrew Sarkis is a fun name. Who's Andrew and who's Sarkis? Yeah. Andrew Sarkis he's a giant. It's one of those predators, big predator guys. Isn't Andrew Sarkis like technically closer related to sheep or like goats than anything else? I think there's something weird like that, because they actually have hooves. They don't have so I guess it's technically an ungulate, which is weird. I might be thinking of a different one though. Different weird animal. Andrew Sarkis was one of the animals that was featured in Walking with Prehistoric Beasts, I think. No, are they actually related to hippos? Okay. Yeah, that is weird. Furry carnivorous hippos named Andrew. Yeah, evolution has some weird offshoots like that like you wouldn't expect, a predator like that to be related to something like a hippo. Terror birds are just chocobos who never got tamed. Yeah, that's that's a thought I've had. I think in Final Fantasy 16, it looks like they used a lot of terror bird inspiration for the chocobos in that one. At least to me, it feels very terror birdish. Usually they try to make the chocobos like very kind of cutesy. Like their beaks are very like rounded and they're very approachable, which I get is like that's part of the appeal of a chocobo. They're supposed to look friendly. But in 16, I think they look pretty cool. Let's see. Yeah, this looks... It's pretty much a terror bird. That's pretty straight up terror bird. Especially in the face. The rest of the oh yeah, they usually look like this kind of thing. Like they make the face very kind of baby-like, I guess. Like a chick, which is cool. I like chocobos in general, but these guys look pretty sweet. They might be my favorite chocobo design so far. I do like the little chubby ones, like in Final Fantasy 13, maybe. The one that's in Saz's hair. I don't think that's a fully grown... That's a baby chocobo, though. I don't remember what they look like fully grown. In that game. I kind of hope that in Monster Hunter Wilds they do another Final Fantasy collaboration and they let us ride a chocobo. Like they let you like put a chocobo skin on the sacreds. I think that would be fun. I never played the Final Fantasy games. As an outsider to the series, chocobo sounds like a slur against someone who eats a lot of chocolate. Yeah, I can see that. I need to turn this mesh off because it's starting to get in my way. we gotta do the top teeth too. So let's go ahead and jump to that. Might need to thicken up some of these top teeth too, because they might be a little too narrow, especially these ones. Okay. I gotta do the inside. Okay, let's check and see how that's going. Looks okay. Oh, we forgot the front teeth over here. I like these little indentations that I did on this, so I might want to spread those around to some other ones and do some on the bottom as well, just to give a little bit of additional texture, just so it's not so monotonous. This guy's head is getting in the way now. Okay. Look at how everything's going. I think that extra detail on the teeth helps a lot. They just looked too, in contrast to the rest of the body and how textured it is, they just look too simple. So, I mean, in the end, the teeth are just going to appear very smooth. You're not going to really see a lot of this unless you like unless the light hits it in a particular way in game. You should see like some specularity, like variation. But I think it's important to add I'd rather have more detail than I need than like not enough and then have to come back and do extra stuff. You can always bake like new maps and like more detailed maps later, and just remap them to the same mesh. But if there's not enough detail in the mesh to begin with, then you have to come in and resculpt areas and like amp it up, which takes a lot more time. Okay. I'm getting these kind of wrinkly areas around the teeth. These kind of thing. I'll show you real quick what I'm looking at. So these sort of things. Those are kind of the details I'm trying to incorporate right now. Okay. Let's see. I feel like the mouth is in a decent spot right now. I should probably incorporate some of these like wrinkly things down here because I need to fix where I repositioned the teeth. So I need to make sure that these details here correspond to the new position of the teeth. So I'll get this stuff in here. And I gotta fix all this. So this sculpted out. Smooth that out a little bit, and then I can come back in with these guys and redo that sort of ridge there. I accidentally made a mark on the chest there. Okay, something like this is okay for now. I got about 10 minutes. Okay, so this here is not what I want. This got messed up when I changed the width of the jaw. Let's see. I need to check the shape of those I think they're called dentaries. It's very oval shaped. So this is like a weird, I don't know what's going on, kind of triangle. And it should be more rounded like this. And this should go something like that. So yeah, I'm gonna have to fix this area. Something like this. Then I can grab this and make this a little bit more rounded. It's better. It's, the wrinkles there are a little bit repetitive, so I need to break them up a little bit. This one. Sometimes it just helps to like throw in a bit of like randomness to make sure that the wrinkles don't feel like perfect concentric circles or like concentric flow lines, because that can look really stylized and kind of weird depending on what you're going for. something that that's supposed to look really naturalistic should have more irregularity, I think. Just taking a look at everything again. Trying to determine what I need to do in the last few minutes of stream. It's getting there. It's getting there. Getting pretty close to being ready for retopo. So one thing that I want to make sure before I start thinking about retopology is I want to make sure like everything, absolutely everything on the model is represented. So like all the little points, all the little like, you know, undulations in the skin, the claws, like all the teeth, like everything needs to be present before going into retopology. That way I know that I'm capturing all of the details I need in the low poly. So when I come back to the high poly and like do bakes and stuff, I'm not like overlooking anything. And like the low poly captures the detail that needs to be captured. So that's one thing that I need to take into account before we move into that phase. But yeah, I think he's starting to, I'm pretty happy with, I really like the way the scales look here. Which is something, I'm usually pretty hard on myself when it comes to this type of stuff. So I'm being a little bit generous to my, to my own sculpt right now. But I am pretty happy with the way these scales or osteoderm, this area looks. I mean, we could detail this kind of stuff forever, but we gotta find an endpoint somewhere, you know. So I still need to come back in. So these are, I made that alpha. And I need to remember to come back in and to add the alpha texture to these ones because they're missing the level of detail that's here needs to be here on everyone. So I need to do that. And that is a mess. I didn't realize that was happening there. It's because of the smart, whatever it's called, the Z remesh. So we're gonna have to deal with that when we do the retopology. I don't know why I said it so weird. Retopology. So I'll have to come and make sure these are taken care of nicely. These are going to be, I'm kind of worried about these thin portions of the mesh. I think I've accounted for a decent amount of that. It's just that mesh, thin areas in the mesh like this, like fins, like very thin, like spikes, they tend to be a pain to deal with when it comes to retopo and then reprojection, like baking, because the mesh is thin, so it's going to try, depending on the thickness of the distance of the reprojection, it's going to try to project details from the opposite side of the mesh onto the wrong side, so that can happen, and it usually happens a lot, depending. So I this is something I've learned from other games, looking at models from other games like Final Fantasy, Monster Hunter, stuff like that. They tend to exaggerate the thickness of these types of things just a little bit, so that way they're not like paper thin. That way when they go into the retopo and baking phases, it gives them less trouble. So that's that. Either they do that, like they exaggerate the thickness, or they just collapse everything down and may actually make it a card. But I don't think that would be appropriate here, because there's the structure isn't. I don't think it lends itself to that. It would look too weird. Okay. So I'm going to make a note of that really quick. Take a screenshot of these. And then write down that I need to finish detailing those scoots, or the scoots on the tail. So I will make note of that. Trying to think. I need to fix the details here on the jaw because they got stretched. So I'm gonna take a screenshot there. Paste that into my ref sheet. There's probably some other areas, but those are the major areas that are catching my eye. This area here looks. So I think I mentioned I needed to address that in a different stream, so I need to still do that. But I have that marked down already. Okay, just thinking out loud, stuff I need to do. Yeah, we're at the end of the stream now. So thanks guys for coming once again. Thank you for chatting with me, watching the process so far. Yeah, keep an eye on Discord, keep an eye on YouTube for more news, and yeah, I'll catch you next week. See you all later.